There was a firefight!
You know, a lot of people think they know me here in YGWA. But you guys don't even know the half of it. You see, there are several forms of the man known as J-Dub. Let's go through the list. First, there is the violent one. This is the original incarnation in Shiawassee Wrestling Federation. This is the man who speared another man through a chain link fence, dislocating his own jaw and losing vision in his right eye. I don't know if you can see it, but there are scars underneath his right eye from 5 stitches that he received. He had to have his eyeball shoved back into the socket. That's a man who has no regard for his own safety, let alone others. Hell, that guy didn't even win that match. He lost. He went on to lose. He went on to lose that match. It was a match for the Intercounty Championship, and he wanted to do whatever it was that he needed to do to win that title, and he lost after suffering that horrendous injury. But then, you move on to a man who called himself the Violence King. This is a man who was so arrogant that he considered himself a king amongst men. He considered all other competitors to be peasants and below him. This is the same man who in Supreme Wrestling Federation befriended King AJO, only to stab him in the back and steal his precious television championship. Might I add, King AJO's 1-year reign as television champion. And what did Jay do? What did he do? He threw that title into the trash to become the first ever SWF National Champion. A championship that no one has been able to hold like that man did. A championship that he went on to hold for 8 months until the company closed. And then you move on to a man who snapped after a world title match. A man whose mind is a little tweaked after a world title match. A man who sits in a darkly lit room and talks to himself and says the voices tell him to do things. The voices tell him to burn the house down. The voices tell him to break Christo's legs. The voices tell him to break the neck of Adorius 99. No, a lot of that is nonsense. But if you ever followed Supreme Wrestling Federation, you would know what I'm talking about. This is a man who called himself crazy. Who called himself the Mad One. Whose theme said that he hears the sound of madness in his mind. And then you move on to VCW, Virtual Championship Wrestling, and the first incarnation that the YouTubes have ever seen of J-Dub. The Violence King! A man, much like the second form of J-Dub, thought he was better than others. But not only that, his newly formed court knew it too. You see, this man would do anything for these fans. This man would have put on a show-stopping performance, not even walked out as the victor, just to watch 3-year-old little Jimmy smile in the crowd. Something R-Truth knows nothing about. And you see, this man, he went on to great success, if you count merchandise sales, if you count actually putting on a show for these fans. But as far as wins and losses, this man was 17-3. In the 13 months he was in VCW, he lost 17 matches and only won 3. That is a man who is unsuccessful, not only in the business that we are in, but in life. But that man was killed, dead, buried by Shogun and his lackeys after a Hell in a Cell match. And that brings us to the next incarnation, the Fame Maker, a man who will make you famous. A man who is so arrogant that not only after your match with him, he thought he would make himself famous, but he'd make you famous as well. That's how great he thought he was. But he wasn't. Again, what did he do? Since he's been back, what has he done in VCW? He's won a couple more matches than the Violence King. But what does that say? That man sucked. Made it to a world title match and he jobbed out. Didn't fucking concentrate in the ring, beat the shit out of people on the outside, you lose. This is the man who is so arrogant and egotistical that he'd rather make you famous than actually win a match. Again, this complex seems to happen with Dub a lot. But now we're in YGWA. And all of those men, all of those personas are dead and buried once again. And you see, what do you gotta do? You take the most wanted and great features of anything. You create a monster, a wrestling monster, a wrestling gimmick that cannot be beat. You put all those together and you are unstoppable. And you become Mr. Boombastic.